Strife and distension are the themes of this week's Torah portion, Korach. Korach and his men launched this rebellion against Moses. What is going on here? There are many different interpretations, but the Jewish mystical thinkers, the Kabbalists, try and trace this dispute back to its primordial origins. Rabbi Isaac Luria, the 16th century Kabbalist, argues that this is actually a re-emergence of the dispute between Cain and Abel, Adam's sons. Cain, of course, brutally murdered Abel, and here what is actually happening is a reincarnation of these souls. Moses was a reincarnation of the soul of Abel, and in fact the entire generation were offshoots of Abel's soul, including Korach. But shortly before the rebellion, says Rabbi Isaac Luria, sparks of Cain's soul became invested in him and his men. And that is why all of a sudden they felt rebellious of Moses, and they felt spiritually independent of him, because they were. They had a different soul root. So they felt they were not part of Abel's soul anymore and his soul tree. We need independence, and that is what motivated their rebellion. The Zohar actually traces it even further back, to the beginning of creation, when God separated the firmament from the waters. This, said the Zohar, was the original dispute. It was the original division, primordial division, from which all future divisions came. Now, if we move forward to chapter 16, verse 4, Moses' reaction to this rebellion was that he fell on his face. Vayipol panav. And the Talmud says, the Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Sanhedrin, page 110a, what was this? What rumor was spreading around? What did they say about him that made him fall on his face and become totally dejected? And the Talmud says that Korach and his gang had actually spread a rumor that Moses was guilty of marital infidelity. Why? Why had they picked on this particular lie to say about Moses? So Rabbi Shmuel Edels, the Marsha, who was one of the most foremost commentators on the Talmud, he suggests, interestingly, that, of course, Moses was known to have separated from his wife to achieve higher levels of prophecy, so people became suspicious of him. Is it viable to remain separate from your wife for so long? So Korach came with this ingenious plan to accuse him of infidelity, because he couldn't maintain his separateness for so long, apparently. Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz, the Shalah, also a 16th century commentator, comes up with a brilliant explanation. What was Korach's argument? He said that Moses had inappropriately appointed Aaron into the priesthood. Now, one of the roles of the priest is that the priest tests out the sota, which is a woman who has been accused of adulterous behavior. And so, says Rabbi Isaiah Horowitz, Korach argued that Moses had placed his own family into the priesthood. Because if it became necessary to test a woman for infidelity, Moses would have family protection there. No one would ever find out, because it was his own family. But the most shocking, if you haven't been shocked by that already, this is guaranteed to shock you. Because when I read it, I was utterly dumbfounded. The Baal Shem Tov said the following insight, which was communicated to us by his grandson, Rabbi Moses Chaim Ephraim of Sudilkov, an 18th century figure. He was actually the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. He wrote the book Degel Machne Ephraim. And he says as following in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. I'm actually going to quote this because it's so shocking. Because it shatters the traditional Chassidic idea of the way we perceive Moses, the way we perceive a tzaddik. He says as following, Pirish Huzal, this is what the Baal Shem Tov said, Ki Moshe Rabbeinu noiled bebechines sheyiyeh rasha gomer. Moses was born with the inclination to be utterly wicked. V'yeh kol midas rayos. And the way he was built, he should have been a wicked man. He should have had a vile character, the way he was disposed. Ach shehu hipech v'shiva kol midas rayos. But he struggled with his darker side, with his negative tendencies. V'hishtadel rak lehikonas atzma b'midas tovos. And he made this tremendous effort to only endow himself with fine and good properties, and of course he was a tzaddik. He was a righteous man, and not, God forbid, guilty of any sin. But he had it within him to sin. He had the potential. Interestingly, the Baal Shem Tov should say that. And so says his grandson, the Degel Machan Ephraim. Why was it believable? How could you even say against the righteous Moses that he was guilty of such a heinous crime? Because at the level of potential, Moses was on the level of a possible sin. He was born with it. He could have done it. He just didn't. He struggled and prevented himself from doing so. But in theory, he was possible. It was possible for him to sin. And therefore, the theory of his illicit behavior had become believable by the masses. Very interesting insight from the Degel Machan Ephraim. Now let's move to chapter 16, verse 15. Moses was extremely angry. He said to God, don't turn to their gift offering. I have not taken the donkey from a single one of them. I have not wronged a single one of them. Anger is known to be a negative trait. Maimonides says that we should avoid it to the extreme. Why did Moses get angry? So the Zohar says, interestingly, that Moses was angry at himself. Moses wasn't angry at Korach. When someone argues with you, when someone wrongs you, you don't get angry with them. You get angry with yourself for failing to heal them. God has given you a mission. You're here to bring good to this world. The reason why you've been sent this disputant, this difficult character, is because you have the ability to heal that person. And therefore, if you don't, you should see it as a personal failing. Don't get angry that that person has bad traits, because that's not his fault. That's the way God made him. Your role here is to heal him. The only room for anger is anger at yourself. Beautiful insight from the Zohar. And finally, chapter 17, verse 23. We have this fascinating story of, after the story of Korach, where Aaron takes a staff, all the tribal leaders take their staffs, they put them together, and Aaron's staff blossoms, buds, flowers, and finally almonds to prove that his appointment was indeed with God's approval. What's the point of this? There's many layers of insight here, but one insight I particularly liked was the idea that, in life, people want our fruit. They want our results. When you're at work, everyone loves that. If you're making effort, everyone loves it. But if you're not producing result, if you're not producing fruit, your days are numbered. In school, if you're making tremendous effort, if you're flowering, you're blossoming, the teachers will love you. But if you don't get those results in the exams, if you don't produce fruit, then you will get criticism from your parents and you will feel like a failure, God forbid. In this world, all people want is fruit. On Aaron's staff, you had both and now normally when a tree grows, the blossom falls away and we only see the fruit. On Aaron's staff, the blossom remained with the fruit. And this is a very beautiful idea that God is telling us that I notice your effort. I know in the world they only value the fruit, but I value the blossom. It matters to me. Just as much as whether you're producing the result, it matters to me the sincerity of your blossoming, of your effort. Spiritual message for the week. Do you have a Korach within you? A part of you that just hasn't matured and likes to fight with people? We all have a certain immaturity to us. Some part of us that hasn't yet been tempered with humility. Search through your past experiences, your rebellions, your quarrels. Can you find any arrogance there? Have you found that life's experiences were just like that big fire that swallowed up Korach, that just burnt up your immaturity and your arrogance? Listen to your heart. Are you jealous? Are you impatient? Are you angry about anything? Is there that Korach within you burning? Because if you can heal it while it's within you and don't let it outwards into the world, this world will be a better place. And that's what the Torah portion is empowering you to do every week, to give you that healing, to give you that soothing, to give you that spirituality. Please join us again next week for Torah in 10.